And around what time would you and Mr. Williams get home from work?
I was getting home about 5:45, between 5:45 and 6.
And in relation to your apartment, where did Mr. Williams live?
If you come out of my front door and get ready to come down the steps, and I can see his apartment, his front door.
So if you were sitting on your patio, could you see Mr. Williams' front door?
You would have to stand on the corner and look that way, but yes.
And did you know Kentae Williams?
No, not well.
I'm sorry?
Not well. I just knew that I knew of him, his existence, but I didn't know him. I never met him.
Okay. Had you seen him around the neighborhood?
Yes.
But you never spoke with him?
Correct.
May I approach the witness room? Mr. Williams, I'm going to show you what I marked as State's Exhibits 6 through 13. And if you could just take a moment to look at these, and then when you're done looking at them, let me know. I'll ask you some questions. And State's Exhibits 6 through 13, do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
Most of them show my apartment where I live.
Do they all show the apartment complex of Glen Hollow?
Yes. Seven, yes.
Serenade, I'm sorry. And are they all fair and accurate depiction of how Serenade appeared when you lived there in April of 2017?
Yes.
It's time to enter State's Exhibits 6 through 13 into evidence and ask to publish.
No objection. Admitted without objection.
Mr. Lemons, I'm now putting on the overhead in front of you State's Exhibit 6. It's going to take a second to focus. In this photograph, State's Exhibit 6, do you see your apartment?
Yes.
And if you could actually physically touch the screen and circle your apartment. And behind the bright light, is that your porch or patio?
Yes.
Is there any other porch or patio related to your apartment?
No. Other than the front, when you go up the steps, you go in the front door.
Oh. Now putting on the overhead State's Exhibit 7, you mentioned a patio when you're going up the front steps. Do you see that in this photograph?
Yes.
And if you could go ahead and circle that. And in this photograph, do you see the other patio that we just saw in the other exhibit?
I can see the corner of it.
If you could just put a mark there. And if you're looking at this photograph, where in relation to your patio is Mr. Williams' apartment?
It's almost like you took the picture standing in front of his door.
Now I'm putting on the overhead State's Exhibit 8. Tell us once it focuses. Okay. And what are we looking at in State's 8?
I'm looking at my apartment in the whole building.
And if you touch it again, you can put...
Circle mine?
Yes, please. And in relation to your apartment, is Mr. Williams' apartment to the left or right?
To the left.
tell us what we're looking at State's Exhibit 9?
I'm looking at Mr. Williams' apartment.
If you can mark where you see his apartment. And is your patio at all visible in this photograph?
This looks like the rail when you get ready to go down the steps.
Could you put a mark right there? I'm putting on the overhead State Exhibit 11. And do you see your apartment in this photograph?
Yes.
Can you identify it by marking it? Oh, hold on. I've got to change that. All right. And you indicated you knew a Miss Yolanda Ingram. Can you see her apartment from in this photograph?
Yes.
Could identify her apartment.
I don't know if she like upstairs or downstairs, but it's one.
I'm going to put on the overhead States Exhibit 13. Do you see your actual building in this photograph?
Yes.
And what building was that?
255.
Okay. And from this angle, where is Miss Yolanda's apartment? Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. Now, I want to draw your attention to Friday, April 28 of 2017. Were you at work on that day?
No, come on.
Okay. So that evening, approximately 6-7 p.m., where were you?
On the patio with my family.
On the patio. And just so that we're clear, putting on State's Exhibit 11, you can show me the patio that you were on. And what were you doing on the patio at that time?
We were grilling.
You were grilling? And where were your children?
They were on the patio too.
And this time I moved to publish States 14. How long is the video?
I don't know.
So, would you say it's more than 5 minutes? Less than a minute?
Well, maybe a while later. Because it's one time in real time and the second time in slow motion.
Okay. And now if you're looking up the States Exhibit 14, what are those bars that we're looking at
The rails of the patio.
of your patio?
What's up with it?
Is this the same video just in slow motion that we're about to watch? Okay. And who is the individual we're seeing in the picture now?
That's Kentae.
And back here where I put my cursor, what is that over there?
That's where Yolanda's apartment is.
And do you see Leon Williams in this video?
Yes.
Can I identify him by what he's wearing in this video?
Yeah, the blue shirt with the jeans.
And the date this video was taken, was that April 28th of 2017?
Yes.
And do you hear your voice in the video?
Yeah.
Okay, and what are you saying in that video?
Well, I spoke to him. I said, what's up?
Okay. And so that's when you first began to speak with him?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So your conversation with Leon happened immediately after this video?
Yeah, because he started to walk back down.
Okay. At what point did Mr. Williams walk back down?
After I stopped recording.
Okay. And Kentae came with him to speak with you?
Yeah, because eventually it was like standing directly under me.
Okay. And do you see Leon Williams in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you identify him, please, by what he's wearing?
Olive color suit.
The record reflects the witness has identified the defendant. Now, how long after Kentae and Leon went inside their home did you see emergency ambulances?
I want to say it was about an hour because we took the hot dogs off the grill
Okay.
and we put the kids in the front room to eat together. And my daughter just started going crazy because she saw the red lights at the window. The curtain was drawn so you couldn't see unless you opened it.
Okay. And how is it that you learned about Kentae's death?
Garrison told me
And Garrison's one of your neighbors?
across the house.
Okay. And at some point, did police come and speak with you about the video and anything you may have witnessed?
That day? No.
Okay. Did they speak with you on another day?
Yes.
And at that time, did you give the police department a copy of the video?
Yes.
Just one moment. And was that video that we just saw the last time that you saw Kentae alive?
Yes.
Okay. Other than your voice on the video, did you recognize any other voices?
I heard Precious call Leon when he stopped to turn around.
Say that again.
I heard Yolanda and Precious call Leon when he stopped in the video and turned around. She called his name.
Okay. So that was Yolanda or Precious's voice? When you saw Leon speaking with Yolanda, was that before or after that video?
Before.
Those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
And as you told us, during the period of time in which Leon lived over there, you lived over there already. Okay. And so obviously during that period of time, you saw him on a regular basis. As you told us, he got home around the same time you got home from work.
Yes.
Now, when you say that you guys spoke almost every day, was this like lengthy conversations or just basically cordial, how you doing, that type of conversation?
Sometimes we had a lengthy conversation because he would bring his dogs out to let them outside. So it depended on if he felt like staying outside, if I felt like staying outside. Some days I'll stay outside all night.
Now, as you mentioned, because he had 2 dogs, correct?
Correct.
And the little dogs in which you would walk, I guess, in the neighborhood.
Right.
Now, do you recall when Kentae began to live with him?
Yeah, because we always talked about the process he was going through of getting kids.
So, do you recall what month it was, or what year it was that he got Kentae?
My best guess would be that it was around November of was it 16?
Okay.
Before the year changed.
So, to your knowledge, Kentae at least stayed with him for 6 months or so prior to the incident.
If that's 6 months was November, because that's my best guess of when he got Kentae.
I understand. Now, during that time, so Leon would share with you that he was trying to get a son,
Yes.
and I guess you'd already shared with him the joys of being a father.
Not necessarily. It was kind of a one-sided conversation.
Okay, because he's loquacious, isn't he? He talks a lot.
No, you don't talk about it.
Well, you said it's one-sided. So what's going on there?
When we talk, I don't put myself out to people if I don't need to. So I won't tell you what's going on in my life just because you tell me what's going on in yours.
Gotcha. So he would tell you that he was looking to get a son. And obviously, during that time, did he already have Kentae with him on a trial basis? Or this is when he didn't have Kentae at all?
Didn't have it at all.
Didn't have him at all. So during the period of time in which Leon had Kentae, what was your interaction with Kentae?
I never knew his name prior to his death.
Okay. But you saw him though, right?
Correct.
And you mentioned you saw Leon almost daily.
Correct.
How often would you see Kentae?
When they came home from school, when you picked them up and they go in the house. It's kind of like we didn't talk as much as you got, but I understood that because you got your father now.
And I believe you mentioned in your statement that Mr. Williams, he sort of had a particular spot or area which he usually parked in.
Correct.
Now, was it assigned parking or was it just a matter of habit for him?
It's just what we all parked there when we got home.
Okay. So typically he parked in a certain area, and as you showed us, his apartment in the parking lot, you're sort of in the middle there.
Correct.
So he'd walk by, you guys would maybe share a conversation, and he'd go on about his business.
How long have you lived there?
4 years now.
4 years. What's the name of that apartment complex?
Sarah Lee Apartments.
And your apartment, is it on the ground level or something else?
It's a townhome. So
Okay.
I have around.
So your home has 2 levels? Okay. So there's a bottom and a top?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're looking at State's Exhibit 13. Do you see your home in this photograph?
Yes.
If you touch the screen, you can actually circle or mark where your home is. And do you have a nickname that people call you?
Precious.
Okay. Do you know a Garrison Stinson?
Harrison Stinson.
No? Okay. Do you know Alicia Nash?
Yes.
And how do you know Alicia?
She's my cousin. We just found that out.
Okay. Prior to finding out that you were cousins, were you friends with her?
Yes.
Okay. And how did you find out you were cousins?
At a family reunion.
Okay. You showed up at a reunion and saw her there and wondered what she was doing?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know Marino Lemons? Or Mr. Lemons?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And how do you know him?
He's a neighbor.
Okay. And do you know Leon Williams?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you know Leon?
He was a neighbor. He was also a good friend.
Okay. When did you first meet Leon?
It was someone that got killed in apartments, and all the neighbors came out, and I got a chance to meet him there.
Okay. Do you remember approximately what year it was?
I think it was 2014.
Okay. So in 2014, you had met Mr. Williams. Okay. And what was your relationship like with Mr. Williams?
We used to spend time every Friday and Saturday together.
And where would you spend time?
Normally at my place.
And did you know he wanted to adopt a child?
Yes.
Had Leon told you he was particularly interested in adopting a special needs child?
Yes.
Did he tell you why he wanted specifically a special needs child?
Actually, I don't think he actually told me the reason why he seemed so excited about adopting a child.
When you and him began talking about the adoption, when was it?
I think it was the following year, 2015.
And at some point, did you learn that Leon adopted a child named Kentae?
Yes.
And did you personally know Kentae?
And he used to bring Kentae down to the house.
Okay. So you would speak with Kentae?
Yes.
Okay. And what was Kentae like when you would interact with him?
He was so energetic. I'm used to coming in the house, and he played the game with my fiance, and I think it's the PlayStation 2. And he used to play with my little niece outside. And he was very energetic, a happy kid.
Was there ever a time that Kentae stayed at your house overnight?
Yes, Leon got sick, and he went into the hospital, so I kept Kentae overnight. And then Leon's mother actually came and picked him up the next day.
How many nights was Kentae with you?
It was just one night.
What time of year was it?
It was 2016. It was the end of 2016.
And how was Kentae's personality when he stayed with you over that night?
Oh, he had a lot of energy. I had to work the next day, so I kept telling him to go to bed, and he'll lay down for a minute, and he'll jump and say, "It's time to get up yet?" And I was like, "No, we have to go to bed," and he would lay back down, and he was like, "It's time to get back up." He just had a lot of energy. And around 3 o'clock in the morning, he finally dozed off to sleep.
Now, after that night that Kentae stayed over, did he ever come back over your house?
No.
And how come?
I do not have a clue. Leon actually stopped speaking with me. I don't know why. And I just don't have no explanation on why he stopped.
So after that night that Kentae stayed over, Leon stopped speaking with you, and you stopped seeing Kentae on a regular basis or at all. Would you see Kentae in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I would see him as he's either they're going somewhere on a weekend. I see him going to the car, because the way my patio is made directly to their parking area. Mm-hmm. So I would see him going back and forth to the car, but he wouldn't speak, wouldn't look down. I don't know what happened.
When you say he wouldn't speak, who are you talking about?
Kentae, it looks like he wanted to speak, but he didn't speak.
And any time you saw Kentae, was he with Leon?
Yes.
And at that time, Leon also stopped speaking with you?
Yes.
Now, I want to bring your attention to Friday, April 28th of 2017. Where were you that evening, approximately 7 p.m.?
Sitting on my patio.
Was anyone else with you?
Alicia Nash.
And at that time, where did Alicia live?
She stayed in the same complex that I stayed in.
And what were you and Alicia doing?
We had just fixed us some cocktails, and we were sitting and listening to music and drinking cocktails.
And other than you and Alicia, was anyone else on the patio with you?
Not at that time.
And after you had gone out on the patio that evening, at some point did you see Leon?
Yes. He had, surprisingly, was bringing Kentae down, holding his neck. And so he got to my patio. He told Kentae to explain to me what he did. So Kentae told me that he kicked a teacher or kicked the principal and called the teacher a B or called the principal. It was vice versa. I don't know which one he did. And I just grabbed him around his waist and I said, "You know better than that, right?" And he was like, "Yes." I said, "So you know what's wrong, right?" And he was like, "It's in front of my patio."
And in relation to Kentae and Leon, where is it? Are they walking? Is the tree behind them? The tree trunk?
Yeah, it's the side, like on the side of it.
Okay. And have you had an opportunity to see this video before?
Yes.
Did you recognize your voice on the video?
Yes.
Okay. And what are you saying on that video?
From the very beginning, you can hear me saying, "Don't say it." That's
Okay.
after Leon had said he's going to die tonight. And then as they get to the top of the hill or close to the hill, I screamed for Leon, and he turned around and looked at me.
So at the beginning of the video, you say, "Don't say that." What are you saying that in reference to?
Because he told Kentae, "You're going to die tonight."
Was that the first time he said it or the second time?
The second time he said it.
And did Leon respond to you when you said "don't say that"?
No.
And then you said later on in the video you screamed to him?
Yes.
What did you scream to him?
I just said, I called his name was Leon, and he turned around. But by that time, my music played in the background. He wouldn't be able to hear what I had to say.
And why did you yell Leon?
I was really going to tell him to come back down to my place.
Okay.
Maybe to get him to calm down.
Okay. When he left your apartment, had he calmed down at all?
He, to me, he did. It seemed like he calmed down. He came back to walk his dogs. And as the dogs was, I guess going to the restroom, he was standing there at my patio talking to me. He seemed like he calmed down.
Oh.
He was telling me about his trip, but it seemed like he calmed down.
So when you said you saw him walking the dogs, had he gone inside the home first?
Yes.
Okay. And then he came out with the two dogs?
Yes.
What was the time period between when Leon went into the house with Kentae and then came back out with the dogs?
It was probably like 10 minutes.
How long after Leon came out to walk with the dogs did you see emergency vehicles in the apartment complex?
I really can't give up. It seemed like it happened so fast. But I would probably say about an hour and a half or 2 hours.
And at the time that you saw the ambulance, what did you do?
Oh, I took off running up the hill to Leon's house.
Was anyone with you?
My stepdaughter was with me.
And at that time, did you see Leon?
Yes, I did.
And what was he wearing? If
He
you
didn't have
remember.
on a shirt. I do remember he didn't have on a shirt. And I just asked him what happened. I was like, what happened?
And did he respond to you?
He said he had a seizure.
When he said he had a seizure, who was he referring to?
Kentae.
Kentae. And did you see Kentae?
Yes, he came out on the bed.
The
Ambulance.
this is the ambulance stretcher.
Stretcher.
Okay. And was that time earlier that evening that we discussed the last time you saw Kentae alive?
Yes.
And after that, after you saw Kentae come out on the stretcher, did you at any time give a statement to the police?
Yes.
And do you see Leon Williams in the courtroom today? Okay. And can you identify him, please, by what he's wearing?
Yes, man, over there with the green suit.
Now, after April 28 of 2017, did you speak with Leon again?
No.
Those are all the questions I have at this time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ma'am. So as I understand that evening you and Alicia were on the porch,
Yes.
and Leon and Kentae came by.
Yes.
And you could tell that something was not right between the two of them.
Yes.
And you could tell that Leon was upset.
Yes.
And Kentae told you out of his own mouth pretty much what caused him to get in trouble.
Yes.
And Leon added to the story and told you about not only did he do this at school, but that week he'd been disrespectful towards Leon's mother.
Yes.
So that conversation in and of itself, it didn't seem anything out of the ordinary. Because you've heard stories before about how kids act up and the parents ain't happy with them.
Right.
And you could understand maybe why Leon was upset at Kentae on this occasion.
Yes.
But obviously, you knew Leon. You had some prior, based on experience, you knew that Leon was very upset.
Yes.
Okay. Now, during your course time with you, Leon, you didn't know Leon to be a violent person, did you?
No.
You knew Leon generally to be kind of talkative and generally kind of low-key.
Yes.
Okay. Which is why you say that in your words, I think the word you used was he seemed furious.
Yes.
Okay. But you tried to talk to Leon. You tried to calm him down some. So how long did you talk to Leon? You can't say that afternoon.
Well, with Leon and Kentae there, it was briefly, after I heard what had happened in school, and after Alicia talked to him, and they went back to Leon's home. So it was briefly that I talked to Kentae and Leon, but when Leon came back out with the dogs, we did have a conversation.
Okay.
Leon and I.
So let me make sure I got the timeline correct. So first conversation is between you, Leon, Alicia, and Kentae.
Yes.
And you got some understanding as to why Leon was upset.
Yes.
And then Leon and Kentae walk off.
Yes.
Obviously, Leon made this statement. I guess, was he talking to you? Was he talking directly to Kentae? Was he talking to Alicia? Was he sort of just talking in the air?
He was looking at Kentae, but he said it loud.
Right. And obviously, you're a parent.
Yes.
And obviously, you could tell that he was an upset parent.
Right.
An upset parent basically saying that, implying you that he's going to whoop this kid's butt.
Right.
And you were thinking that because you're like, I see the belt, I see the bag. You were thinking he was going to whoop his butt, didn't you?
I was thinking he was going to get straight, yes.
Okay. And you were just trying to maybe lessen it by trying to talk Leon down some, weren't you?
Right, trying to calm him down.
Trying to calm him down some. So Leon and Kentae, they go up the hill. Now, were you a part of any conversation that Leon may have had with one of the other people in the community right there?
I saw him stop over there,
Okay.
but I wasn't part of the conversation.
Okay, because we heard from a young man named Mr. Lemons. Do you know him?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see him outside earlier?
Well, I saw him when he was coming in and straight in the courtroom.
So, did you see Leon speaking with him after he spoke with you?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't hear that conversation?
No.
Okay. So he has a brief conversation with Mr. Lemons, and then he goes on up the hill to his apartment. Him and Kentae, correct? And when I say him, I mean...
What's the name of that apartment complex?
Saturday Apartments.
And when did you move into 291 Glen Hollow?
I stayed over 2 years.
Were you living at 291 Glen Hollow on April 28th of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you lived at the Glen Hollow apartment, who did you live with?
Me and my 2 sons.
Okay. I'm going to show you on the screen what's been marked as State's Exhibit 12. Do you recognize that area?
Over the apartments that I lived in.
And do you see your apartment in this photograph or not? Do you see Miss Yolanda Ingram's apartment?
Yes, that's me. Yeah, right over the apartment.
Okay, you can now touch the screen and mark it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just switched it. So if you now touch the screen, you can actually make a circle as to where the apartment of Miss Ingram is.
Here.
And how do you know Miss Ingram?
Actually, I met her with my son.
And how is it that you met her through your son?
He would go outside and go over there and I think take out her garbage, and I would fuss at him because I don't like him talking to strangers. And they were paying my dog to take out the garbage. And that's how she wanted to eventually meet me because he used to be like, oh, Mama, she's a doctor. I said, no, Dr. Stanley, she's not a doctor. But actually, she is a nurse. So I eventually met her, and we met up, and that's how I got to know her.
Were you friendly with a lot of people in the neighborhood?
No, she don't when I knew. I didn't social. I'm a lawyer. I don't really trust a lot of people, so I stay to myself.
Okay. Now, prior to, well, let me see. Let me draw your attention to Friday, April 28th of 2017. Where were you that evening?
This is the same day, a little boy. I was over to Yolanda sitting on her back porch.
Okay. And what were you doing on the back porch?
They were having a few drinks, some like daiquiris, I think, and she was barbecuing.
And now, prior to April 28th of 2017, did you know Leon Williams?
I had never met him.
Had you ever seen him in the neighborhood?
No.
Had you ever met Kentae Williams?
No, not to that day.
And had you ever seen him in the neighborhood?
No.
At some point where you were sitting out on the porch with Yolanda, did you see Leon and Kentae Williams?
Yes, when he was getting out the car with the little boy, Yolanda said, that's Leon, which I didn't know Leon. She said, he's with the little boy. She called him down, I think.
And what were they doing when they got out of the vehicle?
When I say Leon, he was coming down the walk with the little boy with his hands clutched behind his neck.
At that point, was Leon saying anything to Kentae?
From a distance, I couldn't see him till he came up. He actually walked up to the porch where Yolanda was with the little boy. He was angry with him because I think the little boy had did something in school, called the teacher out of her name and kicked with him.
Okay.
And I told him, no, don't do that now. Take your hands off his neck. Don't do that.
Okay. So when Leon had his hands on Kentae's neck, what was Kentae doing?
He was like squished over. Somebody holding her neck tight. He was a dead little boy. He kind of clench up like it hurts, you know. So when I seen him, I was like, no, don't do that around me. Take your hands off of his neck. And he did remove his hands off the little boy's neck.
Okay. What happened after Leon removed his hands from Kentae's neck?
He stated, I don't know what he did. And that's how
Who said that?
Leon
Okay.
and explained that he called the teacher a big word, B-I-T-C-H, and kicked the teacher. And so Yolanda called him over and talked to him. He said, well, you know, he talked to the little boy, and I talked to the little boy.
And when you talked to the little boy, how was he acting?
He, like any little boy, I asked him, I said, well, why would you use that kind of word? Who did you learn that kind of word from? You should have called him those kind of words. He was like, okay. He was very typical little boy. I mean, he wasn't irate or anything, you know. He kind of acted like he really didn't know he did anything wrong.
Okay. Now, what happened after you spoke with Kentae?
I heard Leon say that he told his ass whooping. He had brought a belt to whoop the little boy with.
How do you know he brought a belt to whoop the little boy?
Because the little boy had it in a bag, brand new belt. That's what he stated. He's told his ass whooping it was a belt, a brand new belt that he had brought from in a bag when he got from the store.
Okay.
And I was trying to tell him, well, don't whoop him, just talk to him. I didn't know him but I heard Yolanda was telling me all about the adoption thing, how he adopted a little boy, and how he went through so much to adopt a little boy, and that the little boy had some issues, maybe ADHD or something like that, I'm not sure, but he had some issues. So I was trying to tell Leon to, talking about not whooping, just put him on punishment,
And how did Leon respond to that?
It was like, I specialize in, mental health. I specialize in mental health. I know exactly what to do, so.
And then what happened after he said that?
Eventually he said, come on, let's go. And him and the little boy walked off. And as they was walking off, he told the little boy, he said, you're going to die tonight, you're going to die tonight. And we were like, talk to him that way.
Now, where was Kentae and Leon when Leon said this?
Kentae was walking in front of Leon. Leon was walking behind. They was heading back to Leon's home, heading back home.
How close were they to each other?
Just maybe my feet or so. He's walking in front of Leon. I do remember the little boy. He turned back a little bit, and he looked scared. I really wanted to call the police, but I didn't want to overreact. Because I know black people, I can say that, get mad and say things fussing at their kids that they really don't mean. I never heard one go that far in this thing to talk about, well, you're going to die tonight. But I didn't know he had a bad day, and I didn't want to make the little boy's life harder by overreacting than what it was, because he had already, I was told he had already been in and out of foster homes. But I wish I had called the police tonight. I think the little boy still go out there.
Now, after Leon and Kentae left you, where did they go?
He went home.
Okay.
He came out shortly and walked his 2 dogs. I think they're snowers. And he said no more about whooping the little boy anything. So I kind of assumed that he had calmed down. And I'm like, you got some dogs. They're trying to talk him, get on the calm down. He was very, very upset that day with the little boy. And, I said, I got some doggy treats. I went to my car and got some doggy treats for his dog. And he was telling me about one of the dogs had it the first time he came.
First time.
When he came down with the little boy clutched around the neck, after he said he was going to put the little boy with the belt that he brought to whoop his ASS with, as he stated. I talked to him then. But as he still left with anger and saying you're going to die tonight, you're going to die tonight. So he was still angry as he walked away with the little boy back to the house. And he came back out a couple of minutes later with the dog. I still felt I needed to try to talk to him any kind of way. If I had to start a conversation about the dogs or whatever, anything to get his mind off of whooping that little boy.
So the second time, did you ask him what the little boy was?
I didn't ask him about his little boy. Okay. I just tried to have a conversation about the dogs, because he was talking about the dogs. That's when I said, well, I got some doggy treats in the car. Would you like to? Because he didn't really seem too kosher about talking, because he didn't know me, by the way. Mm-hmm. But I kept on, I do that, and kept on talking to him. And I stirred up something that would make him talk to me, That's when I offered to go to the car and get doggy treats for his dog. He said, yeah. I said, can I eat doggy treats? He said, yeah. And then, I got him to talk to me. He was talking to me about the bathroom that his dog had. We talked about the I said, oh, yeah. And, sometimes that calms people. Having a conversation, get their mind focused on something else. And that's what my plan was, to get his mind focused on something else. Because I did not know him. And sometimes people cuss you out, get out of my business, but he didn't do that. Mm-hmm. So I stirred up a conversation and talked about the dogs.
So the second conversation, though, there's no conversation about the little boy at all?
No, not just when he came out with the dogs, no.
The second conversation, Yolanda doesn't mention the little boy?
No, we did not. He didn't mention it. Like I said, he seemed in a calm demeanor. I didn't want to bring that back up, stir his anger back up. So we went to talking about something else at the dogs. He talked calmly about the dogs. We talked about the dogs.
For how long?
Not long, a few minutes, because he was only out to walk them to use the bathroom. And he waited until when he got the doggy treats to give his dog.
Okay. And as you stated, it sounds as though his mind was now somewhere else than worried about whooping the little boy.
He seemed to have a calm demeanor. Yes.
Okay. And you felt as though he and you had bonded over talking about some animals.
I felt no bond with him, no. I didn't state that. No bond, no. I just wanted to talk to him, to calm him down. So, sometimes when we're angry, we can't think clearly. So I just tried to talk to him about his dog so that he would calm down and would whoop that little boy. And
you felt assured that when he went back up the hill, he seemed calm?
He seemed calm. That's the reason I did not call the police.
Thank you, Fred.
And you're ready, right?
No, you're on.
Thank you, ma'am. You're excused, ma'am. State your name,
Next state calls Maisha Brown.
Or input in our own calls. And so the report is same as the 911 report.
And can you just also briefly explain to the jury how are 911 calls captured or kept as part of your duties?
We store them on a digital server that's inputted through the security dispatch system. And they're with each 911 call. So there's a category for each 911.
And when you're asked to retrieve information, is that done by a phone number, by a name, by a location? How is it that you're able to retrieve a 911 call?
Anything from the police incident number, the date and time, location, phone number that the call was made from.
And were you asked to pull a report in regards to this case?
Yes.
And were you asked to pull 911 audio in regards to this case?
Yes.
I want to approach you with what's been marked as State's Exhibits 15 and 16 that have been shown to the defense. Your Honor, if I may approach. State's Exhibit 15, you recognize that document?
Yes.
And what does that appear to be?
It is a printout for the incident, for the system.
That CAD report, as you referred to
Yes.
previously? And does that appear to be a fair and accurate depiction of the report that you pulled in regards to this case?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 16, you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a 911 call for this.
And I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
It's a 911 call for this incident.
Okay. And does that that appears to be the same recording. How do you usually send those to our office?
Via email.
Okay. And you did in fact send an audio recording to our office in regards to this case, correct?
Yes.
And the audio recording on State's Exhibit 16, does that appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the recording that you sent to our office in regards to this case?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, this time I'd ask to admit into evidence States 15 and 16.
No objection.
First, let's talk about the CAD report that was at issue. It's 7. Okay. Well, there we go. Can you explain for the jury what type of information is captured on a CAD report?
You have your CAD incident number, which is assigned to each 911 call, the phone number that the caller is calling from, usually the name, location, indicators that let us know that it's in DeKalb County, date, time, remarks from the citizen or the person that's calling it in, and also remarks for the county employees that are on scene.
Okay. And there's a date and time stamp at the top of the page. Is that something that's auto-generated when you actually pull that report?
Yes.
Okay. And so here on State's Exhibit 15, it says 2/14/18. So would that be the time or the date that you actually pulled this report?
Yes.
And you referred to the incident number, and that's the law enforcement number that we see right here.
That's the CAD. Yes, ma'am. That's the CAD incident number.
And the phone number, how is that information generated? Is that self-reported, or does that automatically generate like a caller ID system?
It is like a caller ID system, so most of the time.
Okay. The address information that's provided, is that information that is reported by the caller, or is that related to where the officers actually respond?
It's reported by the caller.
Okay. And in this instance, what was the address that was reported?
316 Glen Hollow Drive,
And in which city and county was that located?
Decatur, DeKalb County.
Okay. When you see, if you could, we get down to the CAD call time, the line where it says breath problems, who provides that information?
It's generated by the CAD, depending on what the caller says and what the operator clicks on.
And when you say the operator, that's the 911 operator, is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. And then the incoming call time on this sheet, what was the incoming call time regarding this incident?
It's in military time. It's 8:18 p.m.
Okay. And what was that date?
April 28th of 2017.
And what's the difference between the incoming call line and the call created line?
It's usually timestamped the same, but incoming is when the call drops into the line, and call created is when the operator actually starts to type the information into the system.
Okay. And then it says created by, is that the 911 operator's information?
Yes.
The call send time, what does that mean?
The time that the actual operator sends the information and it goes to the screen of the dispatcher.
Okay. And so what's the difference between the 911 operator and the dispatcher?
The 911 operator strictly takes 911 calls. The dispatcher strictly dispatches either police, fire, or EMS.
Okay. And in this case, when was that call dispatch time?
At 8:20 p.m.
And the call en route time, what does that mean?
The time that whoever's dispatched puts himself en route to the call.
And is there anything on here that would indicate to you who in fact was dispatched to this incident location?
Yes.
And how do you know that? Where is it on the sheet where the information would be, where it tells you who is
It should be
dispatched?
on the second or third page.
Okay. On this sheet, I'm sorry, in this sheet in particular, do you see that?
No.
Okay. And then call arrival time, what does that mean?
The time that the first unit arrived on scene.
Okay, and call clear time?
Clear is when they clear from their screens.
Okay, and what does it take to qualify for an incident to clear from their screens?
The officer will put themselves available from their mobile in their units.
And then call closed, what does that mean?
It's closed out the system, so it's the same thing. Same thing as a clear time.
On this sheet, there indicates original dispatch remarks. Can you please read to the jury what those remarks say?
So echo is the determinant in emergency medical dispatch, breathing problems, 10-year-old male, not conscious, not breathing, arrest, and it says out of water.
The narratives, can you just briefly explain to the jury what is the narrative section?
The narratives is designed for any type of updates to the call after it's been sent to dispatch, any type of remarks from the officers or paramedics on scene. If there are more callers, once the call is sent to be dispatched, then all of their information will go into the narrative.
Okay. And the information that's on here under the narrative section, what, if anything, does that tell you as the custodian? What does that? AIQ,
Available in quarters.
OCA number,
This is the case number.
okay, TRC,
Transport complete.
and AV.
Available.
Judge, if I may have a little technical assistance briefly. And you said State's Exhibit 16 is the actual 911 call that you pulled in regards to this case, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
They have 911 so they're going to have an emergency. We have a 9-year-old youth and a 10-year-old youth in the bathtub. And when we came to check on it, she was laying in the tub. Okay, what's the address?
316 Glen Hollow Drive, number 5.
There's a house or apartment?
It's an apartment, 78 apartment.
What's the apartment building number?
316 is the building number. I'm doing CPR right now.
What's the apartment number?
5.
And what's the phone number you're calling from? 912-631-9304. Okay, now you with the child now?
Yeah, I'm doing CPR.
Okay. How old is he? You say he's 9?
10 years old.
Okay. Is he awake?
No.
Is he breathing?
No, but he's been, we're doing CPR and he's been sitting up to it.
Okay. Is he in the water now?
No, we got him out. We got him laying on the floor.
Okay. Does he have any injuries?
No, just some scrapes on his feet.
Does that help you now? Down the line, I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Okay.
Is there a defibrillator available since we want to go down? Okay. Okay, you said you're doing CPR now?
What?
You said you're doing CPR now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that steps now. Down the line, I'll tell you exactly what to do next.
Okay.
And listen carefully. If you got on the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to tell you how to get his mouth to mouth. Place your hand on his forehead and your...
Yeah, I got that. I've been doing that. Until the dead back and but I had to jump into 2 craps and they got 3 out of the chest.
Okay. And do you feel the air going in and out?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's coming back out.
Okay. I see you check the question. Hello, I'm getting chest compression.
Yeah, we're doing back and chapter for compressions again now.
Okay. Okay, just pump the chest hard and fast first time, and leave it right for a second and 2 inches deep. Okay, did you check his mind for any objects? I did. Okay.
I'm doing breaths again.
Okay. And if anything changes, tell me immediately. I'll stay on the line until help arrives, okay? Okay. And you're working on the paramedics arrive with them.
So 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 30. Breath. I'm not getting a call.
Okay.
You got one? No.
Come on, Tuesday. Come on, Tuesday. You see what you got, please. Okay, just keep doing some compressions, okay?
Deployed with DeKalb Fire and Rescue.
How long have you been with DeKalb Fire and Rescue?
It'll be 19 years this year, October.
And what are your duties and responsibilities at DeKalb Fire and Rescue?
I'm a driver, and I also am in charge of a crew on certain days. That's when the captain is off, and I'm in charge of the crew.
How many people are in a crew?
Typically about, depending on what station you're at, we have double houses, so it'll probably be about 4. I'm sorry, it'll be about 8 at a double house. At a single house, about 3.
And as a driver, do you drive the fire engine?
Yes, I do.
What type of training have you had to perform your duties?
Basically just day-to-day driving. We also do medical. I'm an EMT, that's an emergency medical technician. And that's just kind of the day-to-day operation of the engine and driving. And I also am in charge. When I'm riding seat, it's almost like filling in for a captain.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many people are typically on an engine?
3.
3. And what are the different roles of the 3 people?
You have your driver, you have your officer in charge, and you have your tailboard person.
Say that again?
You have a tailboard person.
And what does that person do?
And he's just in the back, and he'll kind of assist on scene.
So when you arrive at a scene, is the officer in charge the person primarily responsible?
Yes.
I'm going to draw your attention to April 28 of 2017. Were you working for DeKalb Fire and Rescue?
I was.
And on that date at approximately 8:20 p.m., were you dispatched to 316 Glen Hollow?
Yes.
And what engine were you on that date?
Engine 20.
And of the 3 roles on the engine, what was your role on that date?
I was actually in charge of the scene, in charge of the engine that day. I was riding what we call riding seat.
So you were the officer in charge, and then you had the 2 other individuals.
That's correct.
And how come you were dispatched to 316 Glen Hollow?
I believe it came out as a cardiac arrest.
Okay.
So the body was here, but it's cutting off across the threshold, the threshold of the doors. He was kind of laying across right there.
So if I put State's Exhibit 18 on the overhead.
Yes.
Okay. Let me.
Yeah, kind of like right in front of the door. and a little bit to the side where it was the first time.
Okay. So where was the patient's head?
Like here,
Okay.
right there,
And where were the patient's legs?
this way.
So the patient's head was to the left of the photo and the legs were to the right?
Yes.
And where was the person rendering CPR?
Like right in the middle, right here in the middle.
And what was behind the person that was rendering CPR?
You mean here, behind here? Because he was facing the patient, so you mean back towards the, like right here?
Right, like back there.
Yeah. I don't remember what was back here. We was kind of standing behind him, right here with all our equipment.
And what was right here in front of the patient? Like what's this area?
I think that's the bathroom, the entrance to the bathroom.
Okay. And once you arrived into that bedroom and saw the patient and the person rendering CPR, what did you do next?
The tailboard, he took over chest compressions, and the driver, he started helping and getting the other equipment that they needed, which is a bag mouth valve to help him breathe. And at that time, I kind of walked out and started asking the adult female questions.
And at some point, did you take the patient outside of the household?
Yes.
And when you left the home, did you see any other first responders at that time?
They wasn't inside the home. They was down at the front door.
The front door of the home?
The front door of the home, yes.
So you saw the other first responders when you exited the home?
Yes.
Now, other than the patient, the individual that was doing CPR, and the adult black female in the home, was there anyone else present in the home when you first arrived?
Not that I could remember, no.
And the location that you went to, 316 Glen Hollow, is that in DeKalb County?
Yes.
No further questions, thank you.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just briefly, when you arrive on scene, you get upstairs, and the only people upstairs are the patient and the gentleman performing CPR, correct?
An adult female.
Okay, the adult female went upstairs with you?
Yes.
Okay, so she met you downstairs, and she showed you upstairs where the patient was.
She directed us upstairs and she followed behind us.
So then upstairs, we have the adult female, the gentleman giving CPR, the patient, and then the three members of your crew.
Yes. I make the third person.
Correct. So you're the third person out of the crew, correct?
Yes.
And it sounds as though when you get there, you start asking what's going on. You're just trying to assess the situation, right?
Yes.
But it sounds like the gentleman, he's still engaged in giving chest compressions.
Yes.
As if he's like, ignored you.
Yes.
And continues doing chest compressions. Yes. But at some point, you said the tail guy.
Yes.
To take over the compressions.
Yes.
And obviously you guys are trained.
Yes.
And you probably figure the most efficient way to do it is through your team, because that's what you're trained to do.
Yes.
So the tail guy takes over compressions. And you said does the driver start bagging?
He gets the equipment for bagging, and then he starts the bagging.
Okay. And as you stated, you're the crew chief, so you're primarily making sure they're doing their jobs properly.
Yes.
And then you start asking the lady what happened.
Yes.
Because you're trying to get some more information so you can treat the patient.
Yes.
How long do you remain upstairs with the patient?
I can't say approximately. I can't say for sure how long.
Fair enough.
I can't give a specific number.
How was the patient removed from the upstairs area?
A tailboard person grabbed him and picked him up and carried him in his arms.
Okay. So you didn't bring in a board or anything or a stretcher?
No.
Because he was a child, the tailboard person was able to just carry him down.
Yes, because we don't have a stretcher on our rig, but we do have a backboard, but we didn't need it at that time.
Because the patient was so small.
Yes.
So the tailboard person brings him downstairs, and he's not transported by your unit, is he?
No.
Okay. So did you go downstairs and have to wait for medical transport, or was medical transport there by the time you got downstairs?
They was there. They advised that they was on scene, and at that time I went down and met them and let them know what we had, and we brought the stretcher to the front door.
Okay. And then the tailboard person placed the child on the stretcher.
Yes.
And is that the conclusion of your involvement in this situation?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Can you read it?